Good morning. Welcome to the Pit Performance plugin package install guide and walkthrough. This one has been a ton of work. 3 different overlays, 3 different use cases, but I think they're all adding some pretty good value to your broadcast when you're breaking down some pit cycle performances and which drivers are getting a leg up on strategy. So as usual, we'll just start with the quick install guide. You're going to take your plugin file, go open up SDK project, scroll down in the settings to the overlay section, find plugins, click the ellipses, open up that plugin manager, import your pit performance plugin, then head up to the top right, that components tab. You're going to hit add to remote control to get the remotes added. And just a quick reminder, your remotes will always appear down in the bottommost and leftmost portion of your panel. So if you don't see it, scroll down there and get it. But here we have our pit performance one of the day. Let's see if we can get that. Looks like my HUD is fighting with me a little bit. See if we can get that reloaded here. There it is. All right, so I've got us sitting here at Richmond Speedway, and I've got the trucks racing. Just as a good example, I've got their fuel set to only like 5%, so they're going to be pitting a ton, so we get a lot of data here. But let me walk you through the remote. There are 3 different modes in this pit performance plugin. The first one is going to be pop-up mode. All right, so I'm going to turn that on now. The next driver that pits should bring this up. This is kind of like an F1 style broadcast tool and there you see it popping up on the right. When drivers hit pit road, you come up with a live pit lane time, pit stop time. There is a built-in component for this in SDK, but this is a little more in your face, a little more, like I said, traditional F1 graphic style. It'll show up to 4 drivers at a time, and when that driver exits pit lane and heads back out on the track, you'll see that pit lane time will lock in. Looks like we've got the 09 truck coming right now. There they go. And then that time will stay on screen for about 5 seconds, and then it'll slide out of the way and move on up. So only 4 drivers are shown, but as the drivers exit pit road and the list shifts up, the next driver behind them will keep coming. So even though you're only seeing 4 at a time, you will see every driver show up using this pop-up. And this is for your green flag racing. There's no specific moment you're looking for in terms of when people might come to pit road. This gets in your face and lets you and your audience know who's on pit road. Then you get a quick look at their stop times. You know, this if you're on the up and up about what a stop time means, you know these are all fuel only stops here. As I mentioned, this race is set up with AI just running out of fuel constantly, so they're not going to take a lot of tires. But you'd be able to kind of read the context there. But let's say you want to dig in a little more. Let's say you've just finished an entire pit cycle. Maybe you're at a road course. Maybe you're doing some like an IMSA style, or whatever, Porsche Cup, whatever you're into. Everyone's come down pit road. You want to see who are the winners and losers. The next cycle, or the next mode you can use, is this full cycle mode. All right, and this is going to show you everybody's stops, their most recent one anyway. And then there are 2 ways to sort this. So this is showing you that total cycle time, that's in lap plus out lap. Because everyone's pit boxes are in different places, you can't really compare their in laps to each other. You can't really compare their out laps to each other, but you can compare the total of both. And that is the full pit cycle. The lane and box times are also shown here. And then there's 2 ways to sort this. So if you're just kind of following along with the race and you're more interested in the race positions, you know, this is sort by positions, going to match your leaderboard and show you. And right away we can see that 30th place driver, Traeger, had a bad stop. And it has to do, you know, he just didn't get in and out. So he's someone to, you know, maybe a piece of narrative to look at there. But otherwise, you're just seeing the lap times. It is color-coded on this total cycle time, so if someone has a bad stop, it should be easy to spot. And then the other option here is if you don't want to sort by position, you can sort by time. And this actually ranks the pit stop time. So that number on the left is no longer a position in the race. Instead, it's who had the best time. So majors had the best stop in this. And then you could look over at your timing data and see, did he gain or lose or or whatever. So this is, again, there's the first mode, pop-up mode, is that live in your face when you're not really sure when people are going to pit, but you wanted to make sure you don't miss it. And then this mode is more like once the cycle completes and you want to see who did well, who did poorly at getting on and off pit road and having a quick stop. That's this one. And you can sort it by position or by time. Another fun use of this specific view is if you want to do a NASCAR all-style race qualifying the way they did it a couple years ago in NASCAR. I don't know if they still do it this way, but they would have drivers come down pit road full speed, kind of do a hot lap, come down pit road, do a 4-tire stop, and then hot lap their way back around to the start-finish line. You could use this as a way to do that. I know there's at least one person reached out asking for that. And again, this is just in-lap plus out-lap. The lane and box times are embedded in both of those lap times, so you get that full cycle look. And now that we've got a little more data here, you can see the color gradient ranking each person, who had the good stops and the bad stops. So that one's pretty neat. The other one that's really handy, and so while we're here, I'm going to throw a caution to kind of reset this. So in the NASCAR, it's much more likely that this type of pit cycle data is going to be more interesting under caution. NASCAR on NBC and Fox, they kind of show that race off pit road view, and that's exactly what the third mode is. It's called caution mode. You can call it whatever you want, but when everyone gets behind the pace car and then decides to come down pit lane, they should show up here. And because we kind of threw the caution while everyone was on pit road, the data is looking a little odd. You'll see box times but no lane times. That's because the drivers were already on pit lane. But as this comes down, here we go with some live data. So this is, you're going to kind of reset this, and I'll come back and talk about how to use the reset button. But as everyone hits pit road under this caution mode, this is that TV style battle off pit road. And we'll kind of wait for them to come off, actually finish coming down pit road to get a look at this. So it's only going to show drivers who are pitting. So in this case, it looks like maybe first and second didn't pit, or we cut them out with our reset. And again, I'll come back and explain how that works. But this pit cycle, as people get on pit lane, it's going to show their live box and lane times. And then as they come off pit road, it's going to lock them in. And it's also going to compare how many positions they lost or gained while on pit road here. And there's even two views to this. So in the settings, there's a holistic position and pit road position. Pit road position will only compare drivers to other drivers who came to pit road. So if whoever comes in first goes out first, they're going to be even. But let's say 10 drivers stayed out on track. If you switch to holistic position, this gain and loss column, and again, this AI race isn't the best example, but this gain and loss column will update to include how many positions they lost by pitting when other drivers stayed out. And kind of just depends on what situation you're in, what scenario the race is, which of those will be more helpful. And so this one also uses our pit stop assumptions that we use in a bunch of our plugins. This fuel only 2 versus 4 and repair time to classify the stops. And so with the assumption I've got for these trucks, anything under 8 seconds, I'm calling a fuel only stop. So for example, the second place driver, Ohanian, now he's the first place. He did a fuel only, and we see a couple 9.8s. Those are 2-tire stops a little further back in the field. And you can see how the people who took 2 tires lost positions. The people who did fuel gained some. And it's kind of jumping around. Again, this isn't the best example, this AI race, because I have so many people pitting at once. But let's talk about the reset button. So the way this works is because pit cycle times are so fluid and pit cycles can overlap with each other, especially in multi-class races when everyone's on a different fuel window. The way you separate things is this reset button. So every time you hit this, the data is going to basically turn to a fresh page. And any pit cycles that happen before you press the button are not going to show up. So we'll go back. So if you're looking at the full cycle mode, nobody's on pit road. If we go to pop up even, it's going to give you a nice reset. And here's one of the neatest things about this is you can flip the page back by changing that number and go back and see, well, who did win that last pit cycle, even after you have hit reset and move to the next page. This is similar to our Indy 500 qualifying plugin, if you use that one, and things like that. But every time you hit reset, it's just going to wipe it clean. So if you've got a new caution pit cycle coming up, hit reset to wipe it clean as they're getting behind the pace car about to come to pit road. If you know that the last green cycle has finished up, hit reset and you won't see any of the old ones if you're trying to separate those out. But you can just leave it there, especially if you're doing the road race green flag style. It's just going to update with their latest pit every time and overwrite that last one and show that lap number. So you can do it that way, but especially for the caution mode, you need to use the reset in order to wipe the slate clean before you get back into the next pit cycle. The other thing I want to talk about, I'm just going to kind of move this around so we have an example, is it does have multi-class capabilities. So if by default it starts at overall. If you switch it to grouped class, it's going to group everybody by what class they're in. I've just got some fake classes in because these are trucks, not IMSA or anything, but it would be whatever it's supposed to be. And you can change the class set to go with that. Actually, this one in particular is only compatible with class 1, just because of the way it's set up. Maybe later on we'll add class 2 compatibility if people really need it, but I think for the most part you're only going to need class 1. But you do have a toggle for group class, which is going to show everyone grouped in their class, or go to single class, just showing the class of the driver you have selected at the time. Especially if you're running a big endurance race, you're going to have more drivers than you can fit on screen probably, so using the single class will be a little more helpful. You can also limit the number of drivers. If you only want to see the top 10, you can do that to save some screen space, because this does become a bit of a screen grab when it's full for a quick caution. In a NASCAR race, you probably don't need a ton of screen while everyone's just coming off pit road for live action, but in a road race, you're probably going to not want to take up as much space as that, so you can limit the number of drivers there. And I think that's everything. We'll take a look at the pop-ups. The pop-ups do include some multi-class coloring. It's subtle, but it's there just so that if you're using single class or a group class, there you can see the overall coloring is red, but if you switch to class, and also notice the positions on the pop-ups are changing. So when it's overall position, and it's whatever your theme color is. In this case, it's red. If I switch to group class, it's going to be class position in the pop-up, and then class color in that divider line between the things. And if you do single class, it'll be the same, but it will only show the ones for the selected driver. And as usual, this is compatible with our CDSN styling. So if you prefer more of an NBC, a Fox, whatever, a Cyberpunk, whatever your style is, if you like any of those built-in CDSN styles, we always try to include those as options. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's maybe a little confusing about when to use the reset button and how that will interact with some of the modes, but again, it's kind of the pop-up is what a lot of people have asked me for, so that one's in here. And again, it's in your face, lets you know when someone's on pit road. If you use this, you can probably get rid of the action alert plugin or toggle off the cautions and pit roads, the pit road alert, as this will be a little bit better for that live F1 style view. And then you've got the full cycle mode to show you that who's winning and losing, on that last completed pit cycle. You can use it for all-star qualifying style if you want to do that. And then that caution mode is going to be that race off pit road NASCAR style under caution or at stages, showing you who actually gained or lost positions on that pit road battle. So a couple different options here. It might take you a while to learn the reset nuances, but this pit cycle data is really complicated. So being able to divide it up and use it the right way is really the challenge here, and hopefully this has set you up for that. I'm not sure if everyone's going to be using all three modes or kind of have their favorite that they prefer, but this one has been